There are a few key principles that I found very important. The first thing is to recognize that when you're going to start a business, it's going to be tough. And when people say they're going to start their own business, I always ask them, how tough do you think it's going to be? And they tell me very tough. So I say, take that mental picture and multiply it by 100 times, because it's going to be 100 times tougher than you really think it's going to be. So prepare yourself for a long battle, and prepare yourself for failure, because some of the greatest entrepreneurs have failed again and again. In our case, our first business, we failed hopelessly, and we came back and built a great business. So tough times ahead if you want to build and start a business. The second point is about knowledge and experience. Don't go into a business you don't understand. Try and use the experience that you've had in your family. If your family were in the retail business, you know something already, almost by osmosis, about retail business. My father was in the retail business, and I grew up in a retail shop, and even though I studied to do something totally different, when I decided to go into retail, I felt very comfortable and at home. I had inherent knowledge, and of course my father was able to help me when I hit tough spots in terms of my knowledge of the retail business. So use your experience, the experience of your family, the experience you've had, your job experience. Try and work for someone else in the field and see how they do it. If you're going to take risks, sometimes it's better to take the risks with other people's money rather than your own. But leverage the experience you have in a particular field or industry. The third point is about differentiation, and that's a very vital point. Do not start a business that's the same as something that's out there. You have to differentiate your business model. Now, it doesn't have to be unique. It doesn't have to be something that's never been done before. But you need to do that in a way that hasn't been done before. So there are various ways you can differentiate yourself. You can do it faster, you can do it quicker, you can do it cheaper, or you can segment your business to a different segment of the market. So you might take younger people's clothing, or a market that hasn't been catered for, or you can create a market by just looking at saying, there's a group of customers that are not being catered for. That's part of the differentiation process. So build a different business that does something differently. Otherwise, you're going to be an also-ran. The fourth point is about managing money, particularly cash flow. This is where most entrepreneurs fail, because they can't do a cash flow. And one of the programs on the course is to teach you how to do a proper cash flow. The cash flow is the key to your success. If you don't manage your cash, you're going to go down the tubes for certain. Cash flow is your survival mechanism. It's your bread and butter. So if you start a business without a proper cash flow, you have no chance. The cash flow tells you how long you can survive. And survival is all about entrepreneurship. So no proper cash flow, don't even enter a new business model. It's fundamental. Talking of cash flow numbers, the other advice I would give is to be very conservative with your forecasts. It's very easy to push out on your laptop a whole series of numbers. Nothing goes up in straight lines. Much better to put in very conservative numbers and outperform them. When you outperform your forecasts, that's an important part in your success story. The next key principle is about people and choosing people. One of the hardest things in business is finding good people that you can work with particularly well. And people just employ the first person who comes along. Big mistake. Select extremely carefully, check references, and make sure that the person's attitude is right. We hire for attitude and train for skill. So the most important thing is the mindset of your associate, the mindset of the person you're going to work with. Is that someone who's going to have the same vision as you're going to have? Is it a person who's going to run their lives the same way you run? Terribly important, and people don't give enough time to selection. And those people, especially when you start a business, those are the people you want to grow with you. So make sure the people you employ at least have the ability to rise within the organization that you're building. Otherwise, you're not building for tomorrow, you're building for today. Another bit of advice is try and have a partner, because a partner, in my experience, makes the battle a little bit easier. It allows you to share your skills. So don't select a partner who has the same skills as you. Maybe you're not so good financially. Maybe your partner is not an accountant, but he has some financial experience. That's very helpful. So try and get complementary skills. So between the two of you, there's synergy, and together you have more skill than you would individually. It's also more fun with a partner, in my experience. The final point is about becoming an expert in your field. And you do that by studying. Studying on this course, yes, helps, but in the particular field you want to go in, you better be the best and the most knowledgeable person in that particular field. And you can do that today quite easily. In our days, we had to travel all over the world to meet people, see stores. Now you've got the internet, and you can become an expert in a particular field relatively quickly. So study, read voraciously, look at role models and case studies of people who've been successful in your area. You will learn an enormous amount in your particular segment. And finally, luck. Gary Player used to say, the harder I practiced, the luckier I got. And hard work goes without saying, is an integral part of business success. But luck comes along now and again. You get opportunities, and you need to recognize those opportunities, because they come not every day, but when they come, you need to be able to manage the luck that comes along and turn it to your account. So I'm saying part of the game is saying that when those big opportunities come along, when those tide in the affairs of men come along, the ones who see the opportunity for the potential they make are the ones who make it. The one thing I've learned is that business is fun. And if you treat it as a game, and we all love to play games, it's much more enjoyable. So starting a business is a challenge. And in my experience, it's challenges. People are happiest when they're achieving things, when they're performing, when they're achieving something they set out to do. All the books on happiness talk about people achieving challenges they set themselves. So, but in the process, it doesn't have to be a miserable struggle existence. You know, and so I've always believed, and I so enjoy my work, that business becomes, and look, you're going to spend the bulk of your life working, second most of your time sleeping, and then leisure. And if you can think of your business as a continuum of your leisure life, and if you can have as much fun in your business as you have in your leisure, then you're halfway there. Mentorship is a key part of the success story. And a mentorship doesn't have to necessarily be somebody who's available to you full time. It's somebody that you know you can go to, someone you can trust, you can ask for advice on. So you need to build relationships with people in different facets of your business. If you know somebody who is an accountant, culture that relationship and go and see the person when you have an accounting problem or a marketing problem. Mentors are all over the place. You've just got to be able to engage with them. Everybody wants to help. Everybody is short of time. But if you manage the time with your mentor, don't use up too much of his time, he can be enormously helpful. I've also had mentors overseas who are experts in the field, people that I could phone, people that I could visit, people in different businesses. Amazing overseas how friendly people are if you come and you say, well, I'm a struggling person. When I first started my business, I wrote to 50 overseas companies and asked them if I could come and visit. I was a young student from South Africa. Of the 50, and these were the biggest corporations in America, all retail corporations, of the 50, 20 didn't reply, 30 replied, 10 said they would be happy to see me. And I learned so much from those visits. A lot of those people became mentors. So quite good to have mentors outside of your home country, because that's the knowledge you want to acquire. So mentors are all over the place. You just got to slot them into your business timetable, and don't abuse your mentors in terms of time. Use them when you really need to. They're not there to cry. No, they're not shoulders to cry on. They're points, people who are going to give you good advice. That's all you want from them, good advice. So go to them with a question and say, this is what I want to do. This is the solution. What do you think of my solution? Don't go to them and ask for the answer. Much better go to them with your answer and let them tailor that answer to a better answer than the one you have. When it comes to investors, the first golden rule is to be highly selective. Obviously, first criterion is someone you can really trust. Somebody who's not going to steal your idea, and somebody that you can rely on. But there are different kinds of investors. So you need to find an investor that matches the needs of your business. It's no good going to a huge merchant bank when you want to borrow a few thousand rand to get your business started. So investors are all over the place. They don't have to be banks. They can be individuals. They can be wealthy individuals. It depends what your needs are. And when you go to see the investor, go with a real idea. Go with something concrete. Don't go with something that's wishy-washy. Do your homework. Have a really good business plan. Show that you've thought through the thing very carefully. Show conservative numbers, and show that you have something tangible, that you've tested your idea out, you've spoken to customers. Maybe you have some customers who want your product or your idea. So don't go with a piece of paper idea. Go with something that you've researched, that you feel you're capable of doing particularly well, that you've tested, that you've studied, and go in confidently with a conservative projection, and you'll get your investment if your idea is credible. When people ask me about strategy, I always say vision comes before strategy. So before you start working on the detailed strategy, you better have a clear, compelling picture in your mind of the business you want to build and what it's going to look like in 10 or preferably 20 years. So that's the big picture that you start with. That's where I want to go. That's the clear, compelling picture. And you must be able to paint that picture in your mind. You must be able to paint that picture for investors, and particularly for the people you work with, your associates and partners. So start with a clear, compelling vision. That drives everything. So once you've got that clear, compelling picture, then you say, well, and it doesn't matter how it's not about how you're going to get there. You'll get there if you paint a clear, compelling picture. So then you have to work out how you're going to get there. And that's when you get to strategy. So strategy says, this is how I'm going to get to my vision for the business. And you're going to take a strategic approach to every aspect of the business, to the finance, to the marketing, to the human relations, and you're going to build a strategic plan for the business. And the strategic plan won't take you to the vision, but it'll take you to the first stage. Jim Collins talks about BHAGs, hairy, audacious goals. So you're going to set goals for yourself for maybe the first year, how I'm going to survive the first year, what I'm going to do in the first year, what kind of turnover I'm going to have in the first year, what's my strategy to survive the first year or the second year or the third year. Then you'll have bigger strategies of how you're going to grow. Some people think strategy is not an important part. I strongly believe that a clearly documented strategy is fundamental to business success. And it can be updated. It's not written in stone. But that document is your Bible. And that says what you're going to do. And of course, you need to measure how you're doing against your strategy. So strategy is not a document you leave in a drawer. Strategy is a working piece of paper, a working document that says, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to measure myself against that strategy. How have I done at the end of the year? What do I have to change? And off I go again for my next year. The secret of execution is to set standards of performance and to continually measure against those standards. Standards must be reasonably attainable, but what's really important is for you to follow up that the standards are being achieved. So you want a standard of presentation in a store, or a standard of cleanliness, then you better follow up to see the standards are being achieved. Otherwise, it's a waste of time to set standards. Good example is Ray Kroc, the guy who founded McDonald's. He'd drive anonymously to a store. If there were papers in the parking area of a McDonald's store, he'd park his luxury car and he'd start picking up papers in the parking lot until the manager came out. Typically, he'd fire the manager, but that's another story. You've seen the movie, I think. So you have to measure those standards, but it doesn't have to be military kind of measurement. It can be a performance standard of measurement which gives incentives. So if people get to the standards that you want, reward them generously, because they're getting to where you want to go, where you want to take the business. And your standards need to improve all the time. You have to do it better each year. Otherwise, you're not making progress. So a key element of execution is to lift your standards of your business in every single aspect of the business. Every associate must know that they're going to do it better each time they do it. And that continual process of improvement is what drives a business to success. A key element of our success has been sharing the success of our business with all our associates. My dad worked for a big company. He didn't have shares in the company. He was a salaried employee. He could barely live on his pension when he retired. And so I said, well, that can't be right. Businesses make so much money. Why not share the success of the business with all the people in the company? And so from our earliest days, we made sure that every single person in our company had a share in the business as soon as we were listed on the stock exchange. And so ordinary people can make a lot of money by sharing in the equity of the business. So think that as part of your business. Even if you're starting a business now, the mentality should be, hey, if I'm successful, I want to share that success with everybody in the business. You could do it in the beginning by sharing some of your profits with your people, and then later by sharing equity with your people. It's a fundamental formula for business success that I believe in so strongly, and I hope you will too.